council chambers. So just want to welcome you to the Squamish Nation and the traditional territory. First, we'll ask for adoption of the agenda provided. So Sarah to first. And hard to see, but someone in the room, John maybe, to second, yeah. And then second order of business is committee meeting minutes from the March 16th advisory design panel meeting. Any discussion, commentary? Not, then we'll move to adopt. We have first John, second Julian here. Great. I don't think we have any business arising or delegations and petitions. So on to our fifth order of business, which is development permit DP 00586, which is 38373 Buckley Avenue Townhomes. And I'll pass it over to Brian Daly, the district.
Thank you, Chair. So today we are presenting a development permit application for 5 townhomes at 38373 Buckley Avenue. It is on the west side of Buckley Avenue, across from the high school and elementary school. On the west side of the property is the CN rail line. The application meets the requirements of the RM1 zoning, and staff feel that it generally conforms to the DPA 3 guidelines, which it is subject to, and staff are looking for ADP's recommendation on building form and character and landscaping as it pertains to those guidelines. So with that, I will pass it over to the architect team for their presentation.
Hi, everyone. I'm Monica Gruber. I work with David Eaton Architects. We have designed the building, and we are here to present. It's a 5-unit townhouse project, 3-story. I'll take you to the site. Well, it's on Buckley Avenue and about 1284 square meter in size. The rear end touches the railway line, and it's right across the school. That's the survey. That's the base plan with the setback lines, and it just shows the restraints that we had. Some rendering views for the building form. Here's the site plan. So the access is from Buckley Avenue. Come in, and you have the visitor parking and entrance to the units. And you can also see the bike parking. There's also pedestrian access that has been provided. There's an accessible parking space in the visitor parking space, and it's right next to the waste room. So the space near visitor parking can double up as the garbage pickup truck whenever required. 5 townhouses, about 1,500 square feet each, fairly flat land, and there's outdoor amenity at the end. We have about 240 square meter of outdoor amenity space. Which is more than what was required. 40 square meter per unit was required, and we have about 48 square meter per unit. We also have private outdoor spaces in terms of patios and balconies for the units, which are over the requirement as well. 10% was required. We are proposing almost 25% per unit. Sorry. These are the main plans for from the driveway. You come into the garage. There's also bike parking, which are the long-term bike parking spaces. So every unit has 2 available. We had to move the habitable spaces to the upper floors because the site falls under a floodplain. And this is where the mechanical spaces are as well, at the second level because of the same reason. There's kitchen and there's dining space, nook, and living areas. There's also ample storage spaces and a washroom and a balcony. The upper floor plan has 3 bedrooms, 2 washrooms, 2 full washrooms. Laundry, closets, windows, both sides. That's the shadow study that we did, as it was one of the requirements to it. That's the south elevation, which is essentially the front elevation when you come into the development. There's a gable roof that runs along and shed roofs that meet into it. Gable roofs are pitched at 4 and 12, and the shed roofs are at 3 and 12. We've used a variety of materials, fiber cement siding panels like James Hardy, and in different colors. There's longboard siding and in oak color, and there's brick used on the lower floor all around, which is Coal Creek, which is we also have a sample here. These are the elevations on the other end. These are the raspberry blush pop doors are to the patios here, and north of the site looks like that. So we have our materials. We are alternating between the colors used. We are also providing the articulation of the building is done so that it does not look like a flat face. They're moved in and out. We have 9 feet clear on the main floor, we have 9 feet from floor to floor on the main floor, which gives an 8 feet clear height. There's 10 feet floor to floor for main living areas and 9 feet again for the upper story. Unit plans in more detail. So the bedrooms are a good 12 feet by 12 feet sized master bedroom, and the other bedrooms are 10 by 10 or 11 by 9. This is the corner unit, which is a slightly bigger unit. The other end. And this unit is a slightly bigger one too, 23 feet by 27 feet. These are the details for the waste room we were required to provide. I'll let Pat talk about the landscape.
So the landscape is very residential in character. Smallish trees, being styrax, some Dewicke beech, and magnolias. We have some conifers in the amenity area on the west side, and they are proposed to be Serbian spruce. The project is designed so that there's a 4-foot walkway that comes from Buckley that goes to the amenity area and to a barbecue area within the amenity area. There's bike parking, common bike parking in that area as well, and some lounge chairs. And open lawn is sort of the amenity in place for children to play. Each of the 5 townhouses has its own yard. The patio itself is screened by a 6-foot screen just between the patios, and then it drops down to a 42-inch open fence that ties into the 6-foot fence along the perimeter, so that they're not so penish. They're a little more open to your neighbors, where you're not sitting immediately adjacent to them. There's a few basalt features in that amenity area, but it also ties in with the sign feature right off of Buckley, where there's an image just beside the bike rack there that shows what we're trying to accomplish with a rock feature and the addressing right on Buckley. Guest parking and breaking up the driveway is in pavers. There is a band of porous pavers where at the low spot of that drive aisle. And then there's also planting adjacent to each entryway, so you can see where there's green that's framing the landing and the door into it. So a bit of greenery on that side, and as well a hedge on the south side. And I'll leave it like that there. Or the plant material, the rest of the plant materials, sort of West Coast, Pieris, azalea. There's some roses, but no fruiting plants, no bear bait. Thanks. I'll pull it there.
Just grab it out, sure.
Okay, I think,
Right.
is that it for the proponent's presentation then?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, I'll get it started with Julian for a round of questions.
Oh, thanks, Brent. Thank you for the presentation. All looks nice and clear. On the, not that it's my specialty, but I'm just curious. On the north elevation of the building, what's the color of the lighter stucco panel or hardy panel that you've got there? Sorry, I think it's hardy, not stucco.
What's the question?
The color on the
Oh, sorry,
north
do you not
is
hear me?
the lights color.
North elevation?
Yeah, north elevation. What's the color of the lighter of the hardy panels or stucco, if that's what it is? I can't remember.
Sherwin-Williams 6255.
It's called morning fog from Sherwin-Williams.
It's a gray.
It's a light gray I have.
It's kind of a light grey. Okay.
Yeah.
And landscape question. What's the area of lawn per unit on the ground floor for the private areas?
Area of
They look
what?
quite small. The lawn area.
Oh, about
Oh.
300 square feet for each unit.
Right.
340 square feet for each patio, each unit's patio.
That's lawn or patio?
Is that the whole of the yard?
It's the whole yard area, not
So-
just the patio. Do you
So
remember?
the lawns are
Yeah.
about what, like a third of that or something?
No, I don't. But I would assume the patio is in the order of 8 by 8 or 10 by 10.
It does look like that.
8
8 by 10. So
Around is 260 square feet each. 250 to
Was there any consideration for stormwater management?
sorry.
For what?
consider.
Stormwater management. Sorry, are you guys struggling to hear me?
Breaking up.
It just kind of comes out kind of mumbly. Not that you
Weird.
mumble, it just comes out that way.
Sorry.
The applicants have submitted a stormwater management plan that will be reviewed by the engineering department through their servicing agreement application.
Great, thank
Yeah,
you.
we have permeable pavers here and even strips. Yeah,
Awesome,
we do
thank
have
you.
a plan for that. Yeah.
Great. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Julian. I'll pass it to Sarah next.
Hi, can you tell me what the color of the proposed
Can't hear you,
paving?
sorry.
And hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes? Can you tell me what the color of the proposed paving is that's going to go in the driveway? Is it going to be the same color as the bricks that are on the wall?
There's gray and taupey gray. Are they exact? They're standard colors, so they're approximate the same, but not exactly.
Okay, so they're in the same tone, the what's on the ground as what's on the
Yeah, they're
facade?
there's gray, there's
Yeah, some of-
taupe, yeah. they're-
Some of the facade has the same look like that because some of the facade is morning fog light gray with peppercorn as highlights on it, and the driveway is going to be light gray with the pedestrian in darker gray.
Okay, thank you. And then I just wanted to get clarity on where the fence with the gate is going.
The fence with the gate is the lower, so in the drawings, it's actually a blue. But there's a thicker line that goes to the end of to the north end of the patio. And then from the north end of the patio, it's approximately 4 or 5 feet of the lower fence that extends to the 6-foot fence.
Okay, and
And
where,
there's a gate in there. In each,
oh, there's gate between each
yes,
unit.
between each patio.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Thanks, Sarah. I'll pass it to the ADP members in council chambers. I can't see faces, so maybe just say your name and I'll record the order as you go around the table.
Yes. Okay, so it's I'll start. It's Luke. Thanks for your presentation, by the way. I just want to know, in the schematic design phase, what was your sort of rationale for the sizing the width of the units at the size that you did?
Most of the form that has been derived is from the constraints and the setbacks initially. So we wanted to utilize the space as much as we could. So we are achieving an FAR of 0.6, which is the maximum permissible. And we needed to provide space for garage width and the entrance with it. So that helped us define the garage, the width of the unit. And yeah, and then we wanted to use the space for a driveway, a comfortable walkway, a comfortable apron into the unit, and the rest of it we worked from our layouts on the upper floors as well. So that helped us define the width and the length for every unit.
Thanks. This might be more of a question for planning, but is there a variance for the 0.3 required at the side of a parking space next to a wall?
That variance is not requested. I believe the garages are providing that, but I cannot confirm because the dimensions are not shown on the interior of the garage.
Could you show me the level 1 plan, please? Is that possible? Actually, we've got it here. So we've got, okay, yeah. So again, 9 and 9 with. Okay, so they're 2.75. I'll wait to make a comment about that later. Could you give me just walk me through the rationale for the whole? I noticed the garbage room is at the front of the property, right on the property line, and then there's visitor parking and the massing for that for the thing. Could you walk me through the rationale for how that all you arrived at that?
Do you want to tell that one? Okay, you can turn that one off.
Hi.
Speak to that too.
Sure.
Yeah.
So staff pushed that design rationale. Their preference was not to provide a shared waste enclosure, and I pushed on that, and we felt it was a reasonable compromise to put it at the front so that the turnaround was more usable there for waste pickup, and that if the future strata could put a no parking sign for garbage pickup day, then that would help facilitate it further in those visitor stalls. And it also helped avoid trucks going all the way down to the end and made the usable space at the rear more functional. So that was definitely pushed by planning.
Thanks, Brian.
Sorry, I didn't notice the materiality on the drawings for the garbage room. Is it sort of akin to the main building or?
Yes, right now we're just showing a concrete block enclosure. And then we would be using the same colors as the building, most likely a lighter gray, just so it's not as visible or prominent at the entrance for us. Yeah.
Like as in painted or with the brick?
Yes, just painted. That's the only intention right now, to have a concrete block enclosure and have it completely covered too.
Okay, and I didn't see a lot of detail in the landscape presentation about the covered open space in the rear. Can you tell me what color the wood is to be painted or primed or sealed?
Oh, I'm not sure. But I'm sure what we typically would call out is to match the building trim to the architectural spec. That's what we would typically do.
So we're using a lot of oak colored wood, even in our renderings, to show fencing.
Okay, and the oak colored wood, that's the one known as longboard. Is that the longboard metal product, or is it actually tongue and groove cedar? And
It's longboard.
For cladding, it's longwood, yeah.
so it's the metal.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. That's my questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, go for it. Next in the room.
Thanks, Brent. It's John here. I think most of my questions have been addressed already, so that's great. Thanks, guys. Was there any thought given to a play structure in the common open space?
Thinking that the elementary school is right across the street, then they have a significant play element there that we would just leave it as more of a family gathering place where kids could run on the lawn and that sort of play rather than doing an actual structure.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think I also appreciate the discussion of managing the visitor parking on garbage day. And then I just want to, is there any possibility, it's hard to tell with the drawings, but is there any possibility that residents would be able to park sort of on the apron, like outside of the garages? So I guess it would be sort of over top of that paved walkway area. Is that like feasible at all in this location?
I don't believe so. That's correct.
Those are sort of, okay. Awesome. And then just one quick comment. I don't know if this was just me, but the landscape drawings are not in color, and it would have been nice to see full color landscape drawings. It would have just helped with the legibility. So I don't know. That isn't what I received in the attachment that was emailed to me. So that's just my comment. I'm not directed to anybody, but just it would have helped with to be able to read. That's all. No big deal.
Thanks very much, Lucas here. Appreciate the presentation. Most of my questions have been answered already. I had a question again about the child's play and appreciate the proximity to the elementary school. But as a father of a young child, proximity is always kind of top of mind for me. But I appreciate that consideration was given. And maybe a question for the planner. So the FAR is maxed. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Provided they take advantage of the low carbon density bonus.
Got it. Okay, perfect. So I kind of immediately go to the width reserved for visitor parking and garbage enclosure and see, I think 33 feet there. And obviously there was no opportunity for an additional. Yeah, that wanted to ask the question. I appreciate that. And then last question is So yeah, again, appreciate the attempt at building face articulation. Do you know offhand what the depth variance between the building faces are? So where it's proud or where there's an inset, like approximate?
Yes, so
Yeah.
the garages, consider that as 0 level. The upper floor comes out, the balconies comes out approximately 4 feet,
Okay.
and the blocking comes to 3 feet.
Comes out 3 feet. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And then on the upper floors, we push the facade a little bit backwards.
Okay.
And that's a couple of feet
Okay.
from the grays and blues that you see.
Got it. And then the intent would be is that the materiality is continuous around the return. So if it's fiber cement, then that wraps around, and I can't really tell from the rendering, but if there's a condition where it's lawn board, then the lawn board would wrap, or maybe it's only the cement panel that's wrapping.
Wrap because
The return, yeah.
That's the facade on the front,
Mhm.
and then the lawn board is more like a plain edge to edge.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. Perfect. Thanks very much.
Okay, I think that's everyone in council chambers and only me who is left. I wondering if you could speak to the color palette choice and kind of what was the thinking with it.
We wanted to go with a more earthy approach, also wanted to keep it modern in a way, and most of the colors chosen are with like a gray undertone, and we added some color with the doors. Gray was the basic undertone, just like a reflection of the mountains surrounding and Squamish in general, and we added some oak longboard to introduce more sustainable vernacular approach to the development. And then we added a bright red door to just bring in a pop.
Great. Then I was going to ask about mechanical systems, heating and cooling, if that has been determined or what the approach is going to be.
I don't believe a lot of detail has been considered for it, but we've made space for furnace, and we've left spaces and closets for when we have more consultants and on board working towards the details of everything.
And I think that is it for questions for me. And so I'll go back to the top of the list here with Julian for comments, please.
Thanks, Brent. Comments from me. Okay, just one on the architectural side of things. I'm always a little nervous about light-colored hardy panels on the north side of buildings. Squamish gets an enormous amount of rain in the winter, and north side light colors on the north side of buildings tend to go pretty green pretty quick. So I would just maybe think about having a slightly darker tone of grey. It looks quite light on the renderings, but I'm not sure how light that actually is. On the landscape side of things, there's a couple of areas I'm a little concerned about. The lawns to the individual units they look very, very small. I don't think they're viable on the north side of the building at that size. They also require someone to mow them, which is difficult, shall we say, in such a tight little space. It's also not a particularly sustainable thing to do, to have to use energy to mow those tiny little lawns. So I think about maybe having those as a shade tolerant ground cover or something like that. I know you want kind of usable area, but I just think they're a little too small to be viable, really. And planting on the south side, adjacent to the garages, I think your little boxes areas and your little Carex areas are, again, just going to get beaten up, and they're not really viable in terms of the width. I would say minimum width's about 2 feet, really, to get shrub planting in there. I don't think you've got that much space. So I would just think about either changing those up to something that's more in line with the hardscape, or deleting them entirely. And those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Julian. I'll pass it to Sarah next.
Hi, thanks for your presentation. Can you guys hear me?
Pretty faint.
Pretty faint? Okay, sorry,
Yeah.
I'll try and yell.
It's better, thanks.
In the amenity space, the picnic table should be an accessible picnic table. Right now, you wouldn't be able to get.
Given that the resident units aren't.
Somebody,
We're losing you.
Sorry, I've got a wire loose as well as.
and I just make sure that there's going to be some contrast between the pavers that you're putting on the ground and the bricks that you're putting up the wall, just to ensure that there's a visual distinction between the two. And you know, probably I'm not the best person to comment on this, but maybe an option would be some artificial turf potentially in those small plots.
That it's going to be, they don't get any light from the shade study, so you're going to have some challenges on those northern lawns. And that's all my comments. Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah. I will pass it over to Luke in Chambers.
Thanks, Brent. I guess, yeah, I'll just, my comments would be that the parking widths, I think, need to be addressed. Like a lot of people in Squamish, we always have this problem. I hate to be the one that's talking about parking. I really do. But the widths need to be able to accommodate a door to open, especially if they're going to get two in there, because they need 1.5 spaces per unit, I think. So if they're not working quite right, people will be able to park inside the unit, and if they're not parking on aprons either, there's not really going to be a solution. It's just going to cause an issue. Like I totally respect that I appreciate that the site plan is really tight, but it's one of those things that I think it's there to work in practice. So that could be looking at. Hopefully it's something as simple as maybe making one of them more narrow, or I don't know. And then the siting of the actual the garbage room, I appreciate that was directed by planning. But an unfortunate symptom of the site planning is that you end up with a PMT, a garbage room, which is going to be painted concrete, and a drive aisle all on the front property line. And I think that is a little bit too much, especially considering it's in a residential neighborhood and it's also fronting a school. When you approach that site, that's what you will be greeted with. And it makes it really hard for the landscape designer, therefore, to actually bring greenery and soften that edge up. And I think it could be quite a harsh edge. It might be worth trying to reconsider how those could come together, or at least bringing some greenery in, or better materiality on the garbage room. Or I don't even know whether it's more easier to bring the garbage room together with the rest of the mass, try and work that down, and then it wouldn't even have to be non-combustible, or even if setbacks can be reduced at the front. I'm not sure. The overall siting of the drive aisle, sorry, these are quite big comments, but the drive aisle is on the south. And if the whole site plan could be potentially flipped, you could have south-facing lawns, and the landscape would benefit. I'm not sure if that's something that could be explored. I think the materials are actually the colors and everything. They seem to be quite applicable to the neighborhood. I think it's a good choice. It's actually really nice to see brick finally proposed on a building in Squamish. It's a really great advantage to take care of, since there's going to be concrete down there anyway. I think that's a really great selection by the architect. Yeah, I'll leave my comments there, I think. Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's John here, and I wanted to echo Luke's comments on the brick. I like that as the cladding. I had wondered, maybe it would be possible to clad the garbage enclosure with the same brick. Maybe that would make it a little nicer. Also wanted to echo Luke's comments on flipping the site plan so that the patios, I could see an improvement in livability if the outdoor space for the residents would be on the south side rather than on the north there. And And yeah, that was it. Yeah, I think that front edge, there's definitely I have a little bit of a concern there. There's no setback with the garbage room, so it doesn't look like there's any ability to add planting to screen it. So it's sort of it's right up tight against the sidewalk. So it would be nice to see some design development to address that. Appreciate the logic of why it's located up front, though.
Yeah, Lucas here. I think just echo both comments around. I completely understand the rationale for the location of the outdoor space versus the garbage area, but I'm struggling a little bit with kind of all of the back of house aspects located at the front of the site, and a pretty like harsh kind of back of edge edge at the front of the site. So I'm wondering if there is either landscape softening or as the fellow panel members mentioned, opportunity to clad the garbage enclosure, just to do something to kind of nod to the school adjacency and soften that. I like the overall color palette and material selection. Only I know the renderings are just that and just conceptual, but comment on just the number of reveal lines on particularly on the gray concrete panel, and wondering if there's I know there's certain widths that you're working with based on the panel supplier, but wondering if there's an opportunity to reduce that number. It does, to me anyway, give it a bit of more of an industrial feel, or if there's just an opportunity to reduce that. But overall minor comments, and thanks again.
Okay, thanks, Lucas. Yeah, and thanks to the proponent for the presentation. I'll echo the comments of John and Luke. I think that having some outdoor space that has some south exposure would be a benefit, and it would be a nice addition. Also understand the challenges with the narrow site and the geometry as well, with the sloping edge at the west end. Other considerations, echo the comment around the garbage building and sort of the fronting of the site. So I think that some sort of creative approach, maybe I know that public art isn't required, but even something that is a mural or some way to make it a little bit more exciting, if it needs to be on that front edge, could be done. And as far as a comment on the materiality, and I'm not an architect, so take this with a grain of salt, but for me, the renderings and the different material types and colors and finishes is a little bit busy, and I don't know if there's an opportunity to be a little bit more selective when material types are being changed. I understand the rationale behind accentuating the articulations of the building, but I think that often these buildings, from my eye, and try to do more than they need to do. So focus on the beauty around us and less about the finishes of the building. And I'll pause there if there's any other comments from anyone else on the panel. Right, and if not, then we are moving into I guess a potential recommendation. So I'll read through the 4 different recommendations for our consideration. So A, that the advisory design panel supports the project as presented and does not need to see the project returned for further review. B, that the advisory design panel supports the project as presented and would like the applicant to work with staff to resolve the following recommendations. C, that the advisory design panel supports the project as presented and would like the applicant to resolve the following recommendations and return to present the revised project to the advisory design panel. Or D, that the advisory design panel does not support the project as presented for the following reasons. So I'll pause for discussion if anyone has any thoughts.
It's Luke here. I would like, Yeah, I'd like to kind of put forward C. The only reason being is that my comment about the whole site planning, it's a big change, and I understand that. So if that was to be looked at, I think it would be worthwhile ADP reviewing that again. Yes.
I agree with Luke.
Engineering was not supportive of the site plan being flipped. We looked at that early on, and they weren't supportive of adding an additional drive aisle to the north. So that option was deemed not viable.
Okay, I will go for B then.
And maybe we can work on the front end and screen things better and provide garbage space with a different cladding, move them behind the visitor parking, and move things around in the same area, because flipping the driveway was not an option.
Yeah, I apologize. I should probably ask that question in the questions. I'll put forward B then.
Okay.
I would agree, B.
Okay, do we have someone to, I guess we have a motion for B. Do we have a second? Yeah, so there we go. Lucas. All right, I guess
Do we need to specify what we want them to work on it with a little bit more clarity? So I'll just start in saying, so we would say B, we'd like design development, work with staff to improve the garbage enclosure, and landscaping, screening specifically around the front of the property, and look for opportunities to improve southern exposure for residents' outdoor areas. Were there some other comments?
Yeah, I think livability with regard to these private spaces on the north of the property, I think they need to be revisited somewhat. The idea of lawn there, I think, is not viable. So I'd like those to be revisited, and just those small areas on the south side of the property in terms of the planting viability there, they're too small.
Additionally, Luke's comment about the side of the garage needs to be considered.
The parking, Sarah?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's really important. So really look at the accessibility, able to get in and out of the garages. Okay.
Okay, so then I think we need a vote, and I don't know in the hybrid environment if we do a all in favor or those opposed. I don't know, staff, if it matters.
Whatever you like.
Okay, okay. Let's do all in favor. I can see everyone's hand. So this is for B with the comments. All right, unanimous. Perfect. So I don't think we have any other business items. So I will look for a motion for termination. Sarah, and seconded by John. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.